Hi guys, Shishir here. Welcome to this new module. This is about Azure Storage. Storage is how all the data, including the configuration data for all the infrastructure which we are going to create, is going to be stored in Azure. Hence, this is the first topic which we are going to cover here in IaaS. Storage traditionally has been referred to as the hard drive inside your PC, or when we needed more, we created network attached storage like the NAS server or the SAS servers or the fiber channels, etc. Now in Azure, we use some kind of a NAS or a fiber channel, or God knows what exactly we used in the background, because that's the beauty of Azure, that we don't know. We just simply use it when we need it, and we don't use it and don't pay for it when we don't need it. So the world used to be very complicated back in the days of storage, maintaining the hardware, maintaining the services, ensuring the storage array controllers. In fact, this morning I was speaking to a friend and he told me that they went in and upgraded the storage array controller. I won't even explain, or I'll just explain. So storage is like a server in which you have a lot of hard drives, and then you create an array of the storage, and then there is a hardware piece which is called as an array controller, which has its own firmware. Now this array controller had some issue and they opened a ticket with HPE, and just to resolve an issue they had to take a complete downtime and upgrade the firmware of this array controller, accessing the server via an HP ILO card. A lot of things which I said here are a bit complicated. The fact is that these things used to be very complicated, and we had to manage all these things manually. But now the beauty in Azure is that we simply just use the storage, and we don't care about what is the hardware behind it, who is managing it, who is going to upgrade the firmware of it. We just use the storage. So that's what this module is all about. Now, here is what we are going to cover in this module. We are going to look at the differentiating factors of storage in Azure. So basically, what are the various factors based on which the costs of the storage is affected. Then we are going to talk about the type of storage which are available in Azure. Then we are going to talk about the fundamental block of storage. It's called as a storage account. When you have to start using the storage, the first thing which you have to create is a storage account. Then we are going to talk about the resilience of the storage account which is there in Azure. Resilience means the high availability options which you have for it. Then how can you view the storage? Like, you have created a storage, but how do you view the data inside it? Then we are going to talk about the Azure Premium Storage. Then we are going to tell you about the pricing of storage and what affects that pricing. I'll tell you some of the Azure storage best practices. Then I'll tell you how to monitor your Azure storage. Then we are going to talk about Azure Files, which is a subcomponent inside storage, and how to use it. It's spoiler alert, I can say that it is the replacement of file server which you had traditionally, and believe me, when you will see how to use it, you will see that Shishir, why are we maintaining all our file servers? The life is so difficult on premise. But yeah, I have been doing it for almost 15-20 years now, so yeah, you guys can do it for 2 years or 3 years or whatever the time you have spent in the infrastructure world. Or maybe if you have just spent these 4 weeks with me, then yeah, you can manage the file server that long. But now with Azure Files you don't have to do that anymore. Then I'm going to introduce Store Simple to you. Store Simple is a hardware device introduced by Microsoft. I'll tell you the benefit of it. Then I will finally go ahead and create a storage account and show you the various options which we discussed, all of the above. So what are the factors that affect the storage in Azure? There are various kind of storage available in Azure, and we will mostly differentiate them on below parameters like persistent or non-persistent. Is it available to you always, or is it not available to you, or it's available only for a short amount of time to you, and then that whatever data which you write on it gets lost. Then durability, how durable is the storage? Then resilience, which is the high availability of the storage, that how many copies of data it is maintaining, where it is maintaining that data copies, etc. And then the performance. Remember, we have been talking about the solid state drives and the hard drives, and how the solid state drives are so fast, and because they are like a chip based memory, and whereas the hard drives are basically the disk physical disk which is moving across the spindle, and how a header has to read all the data, and that makes all this process very slow. So we are going to talk about the options which are available in terms of performance to us. So these are the various factors depending on which the cost of a storage is affected in Azure. Now, what are the types of storage available in Azure? Well, first of all, there is multiple ways in which I can say types of storage. First of all, basically the storage is divided into whatever storage you take, it is divided into four parts. It could be blobs. The blob, the word is an acronym which stands for binary large object. Blob typically include large files that are unstructured, such as images, videos, music files, backup files, etc. Blob storage can be divided into two access tiers: the hot access tier for data which is accessed frequently, and the cold access tier for the data which is not accessed very frequently. Okay, so blob is the acronym which is for binary large object, and blob is the storage which we generally use as IT infrastructure people. We keep all our data in form of blobs. So just imagine blob as a folder for you. So that's what a blob is. Then there is tables. Table storage is used to store semi-structured data like a key volume format in non-SQL data store. Azure table storage can use to store petabytes of data and can scale and is inexpensive. So tables is like Excel table that you can put data in a formatted table. I never use them personally, so but there is a lot of Azure services like Cosmos database and Mango database which are available, and you can put the data in these tables and you can use those services to do some kind of a cognitive thing with the data. But usually as IT infrastructure engineer, you would not be managing tables. Queues. Queue storage is somewhat like MSMQ. It allows you to decouple your components and have reliable asynchronous communication. In Azure queue storage, the number of queues is limited by the capacity of the storage account. Once again, queues is not something which we are going to use, but queues is typically like an exchange queue where the messages are queued for a delivery, or some other queue where a sequential data access is required. Usually, I don't remember a use case for it, but that could be either I'm not able to recall it, or maybe I never needed to use it at all. The last one is files, which is Azure Files. Azure File Storage makes it easy to move applications which depends on regular file shares to the cloud. Files are stored using the server message block or SMB protocol 2.1 and 3.0 and can be accessed by multiple applications simultaneously. There are some SMB features which are not currently supported. So Azure Files is essentially the replacement of the file server of your environment. So in a storage account, if you create an Azure file structure, you can straight away go ahead and create shares and folders in which multiple users can access the data using the SMB protocol. SMB protocol is the server message block protocol, or if you remember that how you set up shares on your file servers, and then you used to go to file run and do backslash whack whack and put the server name and then the share name to access the data. That is called as an SMB access of the data. So Azure Files supports that. Okay. The next type of differentiation is in the storage terms is the managed disk and unmanaged disk. So when you create, and this is now in terms of not simply data, because what we looked here has nothing to do with virtual machines. You can just have a storage account to put chunks of data inside it, terabytes of data inside it, and just access all that data directly from a PC in your office, and not even create a virtual machine in cloud. You didn't need it, you didn't create it. You only create what you need. However, the disk, this differentiation comes in when you are creating a virtual machine in cloud. So when you are creating a virtual machine in cloud, you get two kind of options, the managed disk and unmanaged disk. Quite honestly speaking, now the option of unmanaged disk is pretty hidden, and I honestly don't know how to create a machine without a managed disk. Now the virtual machines which you are creating usually gets created with managed disk. I'll just explain what is the difference between them. The managed disk has some advantages over unmanaged disk in the sense of that the disk will be created and managed for you. This is like a infrastructure as SaaS offering. So basically, when you create a virtual machine, what it is going to do for you is it is going to create the disk. And when I say it, I mean Microsoft Azure. It's going to create the disk and it is going to store the disk by itself. And you will not be bothered with the management or maintenance of that disk. So this is a managed disk offering. So you basically you can believe that there is somebody in your organization who is maintaining a NAS server or a storage server, and you created a virtual machine and you put your VHD on that storage server, and now that person is fully responsible for maintaining your VHD, defragmenting it, or whatever activity they have to do on it, and you will just use the VHD as a hard drive in your computer and the virtual machine which you have created, and keep using it, and you really don't have to much worry about the VHD. Whereas in case of unmanaged disk, you manage and create your hard drive. So you basically go to a storage account, go to the blob part of the storage account, and you will create a VHD there and use the VHD from there. Now, once again, in terms of VHD, there is not a lot of maintenance which you usually have to do. But now Microsoft is offering managed disk as an option, and it as a force, rather I should say, and you usually end up creating machine with managed disk only. Okay. Now, once again, inside managed disk, when you are choosing the disk, and you will see when we will create virtual machines and all these things, and you would have seen already that once again you will see premium disk and standard disk. So standard disk is also managed, premium disk is also managed. However, the premium disk is a very faster SSD, and whereas a standard disk can also be an SSD, depending on the types of SSDs which are available in market. I don't know if anybody of you have bought an SSD from the market. You will see a 250 GB SSD varies from few $100s to multiple $100, because within the SSDs now exist multiple technologies which improve or makes their responsiveness, and the IOPS is the input output performance, which is the component or the most important component in a hard drive, because a hard drive task is to write the data and read the data and provide it to the computer or the processor or the program. Now, the most important parameter in terms of hard drive is that how fast it can write the data and how fast it can read the data and give it back to the requesting person. So that is called as IOPS, IOPS, input output performance something. So based on the IOPS, even the standard disk can be SSD, and if you go really below, then it becomes HDD as well. But mostly people use at least a standard SSD nowadays in their computers. So that's premium and standard. So technically, I just told you that there are four kind of differentiation in storage. Either it is the type of storage which is blob, table, queues, files. Once again, everything will be visible inside the storage account. These four things. Then when you are creating virtual machine, you have an option to use managed disk or unmanaged disk. And when you are creating a storage account, at that time you have options to choose whether you want to create a premium storage or a standard storage. And similarly, when you are adding a hard drive to a virtual machine, you have an option. Either you can choose premium SSDs, ultra SSDs, or you can choose standard SSDs and standard HDDs. Now, storage account. Storage account is the basic fundamental of the storage. It is the first thing which you have to create if you want to use any kind of a storage. An Azure storage account contains all of your Azure storage data objects, which is your blobs, your files, your queues, your tables, and your disk. The storage account provides a unique namespace for your storage data that is accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. The data in your Azure account is durable and highly available, secure, and massively scalable. So once again, Azure storage account is a unique account name which you create, under which all your blobs, files, queues, tables, or disk, whatever you want to create, you are going to create under it. And it is unique because the name of your Azure storage account has to be unique. It cannot be that you can create any kind of a name which you want to. Usually the storage account names have become so sparse that you will see in most organizations storage account will be something SA and followed with some random number, because we usually end up choosing some random kind of a number to get a unique name there. Okay, so once again, it provides a unique namespace which the contained storage object can be accessed. Now, what are the contained storage object? Blobs, files, queues, tables, and disks. Has a globally unique name which is updated in DNS. So the name is globally unique and it has to be in a certain region. So when you create a storage account, you have to provide what region you are going to create storage account in. So what are the storage account types? So you can have a general purpose V2 storage, which can have blob, files, queues, table, disk, and then there is something new which is called as data like Gen 2. Supported performance, it can be a standard storage, it could be a premium storage. Supported access tiers, hot, cool, and archive. So basically, the difference between hot, cool, and archive is that when you create a storage account, you have to decide that the data which is going to reside in the storage, what is the accessibility of this data. What do I mean by accessibility? The meaning is that if you go to any organization and you ask them what kind of data they have, they'll tell you that, like if it's an old and really huge organization, they'll tell you that we have got terabytes of data. We have got 50 terabytes of data. Okay. Now, how do you maintain 50 terabytes of data? It is impossible to maintain that level of data. And the business is not going to tell you this, but if you actually go ahead and start analyzing the data, start looking through some monitoring tools, you will realize that whatever organization people are there in that office, out of that 50 terabyte, they have not accessed 49.5 terabyte in past 5 years. I'm just giving you random numbers, but basically what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of data which business will say that we need it. But when do you need it? The question is not that you need it. Fine, you need it, I'll preserve it. But when do you need it? If you don't need it every day, then let me archive that data. Let me put it away. So that what is hot, cool, and archive is. So if you're putting in hot data, an active set of data. So we basically divide the data into active set and passive set. So active set is the data which the business is accessing very, very regularly. And the passive set or the cold set is the data which they need or they don't want to delete, but they haven't accessed it from past 6 months or past 1 year or past 5 years. Now this is something which you can discuss and decide with business. You can tell them, sir, you haven't accessed the data for past 6 months. I consider it passive set. They'll say no. If we don't access the data for 1 year, then you consider it passive set. You will say, all right, fine. After 1 year, I'll consider passive set. Now, what you can do is that if you are creating the storage account to save the data which you don't access, or rather now I can use the word passive set or the cold set. If you are using this or creating this account to create to put cold data in it, then you can choose the access tier as cold. Or if you are creating this account to put active set of data, then you should choose hot. And if it is like really passive set of data which you are hardly ever going to need, then you set it as archive. What is the difference? The difference is in the cost. So the hot will be the most expensive storage. Although storage is very cheap, but among the cheap storage, hot will be the most expensive, cool will be lesser expensive, and archive will be very less expensive to upload the data. The problem is that if you put everything in archive, then the cost of getting the data back is very high. So Microsoft will welcome you to go ahead and choose the storage as archive and put all your data. But now if you made a mistake and you need some files from this archive folder, I can say, or archive storage account every day, every third day. Let's say that you miscalculated and you have put some data which the business regularly needs. So if the cost of putting it in the hot and accessing it, that is downloading, the egress of the data. So in terms of storage, Microsoft used two terms, ingress and egress. So ingress basically means putting the data inside Azure, and egress is getting the data outside Azure. Azure offers you completely free ingress. You can put n number of data inside the Azure storages of various kind, and they will not charge you for any internet bandwidth to get data inside. But when you try to get data outside from Azure, they charge you for internet bandwidth, and the cost of egress is lowest in hot and highest in archive, whereas the cost of storage is highest in hot and lowest in archive. So you need to decide what exactly is the data. If the data is really not going to be needed, then you create a storage account which is archive type. And if the data is going to be needed very, very regularly, then you create something which is called as hot. Okay, then you have got the replication models. I will explain them later. This is the resilience, and the deployment model. This is resource manager. So general purpose V2 storage type is available in resource manager. General purpose V1 is available in resource manager deployment model as well as classic deployment model. Blob storage is available in resource. File storage is available in resource manager, and blob storage is also available in resource manager. So like I told you, the classic one is the on way out. So we really don't do much with the classic deployment model anymore. Hence, there is only this one left here. And this is an article which can give you this information and a lot more information about Azure storage. If you are interested to read about it, then go ahead and read it, and it will give you very good information about Azure storage. Now let's talk about the resilience of a storage account. So resilience basically means that if you have put your data in Azure storage, then you want to make it highly available. If it is in a certain data center in a certain region, and if that region goes down for any reason, it could be an earthquake, it could be a terrorist attack, it could be a power failure, whatever reason, if that region goes down, you need to make sure that you should be able to access the data from another place. So these are the options which Azure offers. The first one is locally redundant storage. This is the simplest one. A simple low-cost redundancy strategy. Data is copied synchronously 3 times within the primary region. So one region can have multiple data centers. What it's going to do, that within Sydney region, within the smallest geographical boundary, it is going to copy the data at 3 different data centers. Now the benefit of that is, and if there are not 3 data centers, then maybe it will create 3 copies of the data in 3 floors of a data center. It will use whatever best logic it can do for LRS. And once again, these are not the things which we worry about anymore, because we have outsourced everything to Microsoft to worry about it. We just choose LRS, and we know that we will get 3 copies of data in the same region. This is the lowest cost option, because they don't have to go outside the region and they can copy the data and create 3 copies within the region. So that's LRS. The second one is ZRS, which is zone redundant storage. Redundancy for scenarios requiring high availability. Data is copied synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in primary region. So once again, within the primary region, 3 availability zones are created, and then the data is copied over there. The geo-redundant storage. Cross-regional redundancy. So what's going to happen, actually I'm going to correct myself. What happens in locally redundant storage is data is getting copied, 3 copies in the same data center. In zone redundant storage, the data is getting copied 3 copies in 3 different data centers in the same region. In the geo-redundant storage, data is getting copied 3 copies in region 1 and then 3 copy in region 2. Cross-regional redundancy is to protect against regional outages. Which, like I said, that if something happens to all the Sydney data centers, the data will be available from the Melbourne data center. Data is copied synchronously 3 times in the primary region and then copied synchronously to the secondary region. For read access to data in the secondary region, enable read access geo-redundant storage. Okay, so what's happening here is that here 3 copy of the data is maintained in the same data center. Here in the same region, 3 copies of data is maintained in one data center and 3 copies of the data is maintained in the other data center, but in the same region. Okay, like there are 2 buildings, separate buildings. Now GRS, this is like when you want regional redundancy. So 3 copy of data is maintained in the primary region, which is Sydney, and 3 copy of the data is maintained in the second region, which is Melbourne, or whatever is the region partners defined for your particular region. The last one is geo zone redundant storage. Redundancy, and this is in preview right now, redundancy for scenarios requiring both high availability and maximum durability. The data is copied synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones. So now instead of 2, it is going to 3 availability zones in the primary region and then copied asynchronously to secondary region. For read access of the data in the secondary region, enable read-only access geo-redundant storage. So these are the 4 level of redundancies which are available for your storage account, and when you create your storage account, you choose what level of redundancies which you want. And of course, higher you go up, more is the cost which is going to incur for Microsoft. Like they have to maintain your data in 3 regions, have to replicate it over the network. There's a network cost, there is a storage cost, whereas this is a single data center, 3 copies maintained in the same data center. So higher you go, higher is going to be the cost. So as the durability increases, the cost is also going to increase. So this is what is resilience of storage account. Let's go back to Azure Premium Storage. Azure Premium Storage, the benefit of Azure Premium Storage is that it has higher IOPS, the input output. I told you that the most important parameter for a hard drive is how fast it can read and how fast it can write. Now, Azure Premium Storage will only be available in LRS option because, like I told you, that within LRS, the data is copied in 3 copies in the same data center. It's really fast to copy the data in the same data center. Whereas if you say that I want premium storage in geo-redundant thing and you have 600-kilometer difference between the 2 regions, then the premium storage benefit is not possible. Okay, available only for Azure VM Disk. Premium storage is only available for Azure VM Disk, and the second thing is that not all VM will support premium storage. Only the model which end with S, like D2S or F2S or something like that, will support premium storage. You cannot connect to premium storage from regular VM like A, B, C, D series. It's only possible to do it from GS or DS, etc. series. The premium storage is available in predefined sizes. So you can't go ahead and choose that, okay, I want a premium storage of 10 GB or 5 GB. The premium storage will available in 128 GB, 512 GB, 1024 GB, and this is what's already available. So they may launch more sizes in future. Now, what are the type of managed disks which are available in premium storage? Azure managed disks currently offer 4 disk type. Each type is aimed towards specific customer scenario. So the disk types which are available are Ultra Disk, Premium Disk, Standard Disk, and Standard HDD. So the Ultra, Premium, and Standard, all 3 of them are SSDs, whereas the last one is a HDD. These are the scenarios where you can use them, but let's look at the throughput. So an Ultra SSD can do 2000 MB, that's almost 2 GB per second, whereas a premium SSD can do 900 MB IOPS in terms of IOPS or read or write, and this can do 750 MB, and whereas a standard HDD, and this is really good actually, they must be using a very high rotating and high power HDDs, so it is doing 500 MBs. In terms of IOPS, it can only do 2000, it can do 6000, it can do 20,000, and it can do 160,000. So this is the difference in the disk, and believe me, nowadays processors are good, RAM is good, it's the disk which becomes the bottleneck. So it's really easy if you can use a disk which is higher IOPS, and you can amazingly increase the performance of your computer. So these are the disk types which are available in Azure. Pricing of standard storage. Few things which you should know about standard storages, not the premium storage, that it is built on consumption, not on size. So even if you go ahead and state my storage is going to be, or my hard drive, the standard hard drive is going to be of 1024 GB, which is like 1 terabyte, and then you write only 10 MB of data on that hard drive, then you will be only billed for 10 MB. You will not be billed for the whole terabyte. and these are the items which will affect the cost of the hard drive which you are using. That is capacity being used. Like I said, that if you use 10 MB, you will pay for 10 MB. Then tier, whether you are, it's a hot tier, it is a cold tier, or it is a archive tier. Then resilience, whether you have chosen LRS, GRS or ZRS, and the region. So you would see that the cost of various resources in US will be a bit different, and the same cost for something in India will be different, and the cost for something in Australia will be different. And there is different cost because of various reasons, local reasons, and you might have to pay something more or a little more for something in Australia than in US and India. Okay. But like I said, you only pay for what you use. Hence, in case of standard storage, you should always create a 1024 GB hard drive for your VM so that you can have maximum space at your disposal, and yet you will only pay for what you use. Storage best practices. Keep the track of disk storage per account. So the IOPS limits don't impact your performance. Now this is a bit outdated because especially now that all the VMs are usually using managed disk, you really don't have to worry about it much. But in the olden days, if you were creating all your disk and putting them inside your storage account, then you should make sure that you don't put more than 40 hard drives or 40 active hard drives or VHD files in a storage account. When I say active, I mean that if you have another 50 hard drive files which nobody is using or which are not connected to any virtual machine, then let them be. But actively, don't keep more than 40 VHD files in a storage account, because that can impact the performance of the hard drives. Okay, use multiple disks to get better IOPS. You will get charged for the data which is written on the disk and not the disk itself. So what we are talking about here is that Windows 2012 onwards, you got an option that you can connect multiple disks in your server, and then you can go to disk management, and then you can go ahead and group the disk together to create a volume. No, I haven't created any kind of infrastructure where I can show you, but what you can do is that if you really want to do this, what you can do is that you can attach, first you will have to choose a virtual machine where you can attach multiple hard drives, and then let's say that you attach all hard drives of 1 TB each, 4 hard drives to this Windows server, and then you can go to server manager or disk management. I don't recall exactly from where we do it, and then you can group these hard drives to create a volume of say 500 GB. Now the volume which you have created, you attach that to your computer as your C drive or D drive or whatever drive you want to use it as, and then you put data on it. Now what's going to happen is that, let's say like I showed you here, that every disk has its own IOPS limit. So let's say that you took a standard HDD because it was the cheapest. Now what you did, you took 4 of these HDDs and you connected them together to create a volume. The best benefit is that on a standard HDD, you are not paying for the actual size of the hard drive, but you are paying just for the amount which you use. So you created a volume from it, a hard drive from it, by merging together 4 separate hard drives. So as a result, you got a IOPS which is 2000 into 4. So you got 8000 IOPS, which is more than 6000 of a standard HDD. And whereas you are paying for 4 HDDs, which is going to be a lot cheaper than standard SSD. So this way, you can get 8000 IOPS by taking 4 HDDs, and you can get flexibility on space as well, that you will only pay for what you use, and you can have a very good configuration. So it's a possibility which you can try. But having said that, now that managed services are there, or managed disks are there, this also is not something which you would like to do a lot. Use geo redundancy only when you need it. So it's not a fashion that you should have all your storage accounts set to GRS, because it's a cost. The cost of the storage increases a lot. But let's say that you are using an application which is already replicating the data across the region. So let's say the data which you have kept is Exchange databases, and you are running an Exchange server in Sydney region, and you are running an Exchange server in Melbourne region, and you have configured database availability group. So this database availability group at the application level is already replicating the data. Okay, so if the data is already getting replicated by your application, then just have a LRS in Sydney and have an LRS in Melbourne and keep the data there. If the application is replicating the data for you, why do you need to replicate it at the storage level? So don't overdo things. Last but the most important thing, use backup. And let me tell you this, I'm saying that there is 3 copy of data available, there are 4 copy or 6 copies of data available, and then a lot of people may get idea that then we don't need to get a backup. Guys, that's not correct, because you know, backup is a point in time copy of your data. Let's say that you have some files on a hard drive and or on a storage in Azure, and you took backup of all the data from that storage, and you put it in the backup location wherever it is, and tomorrow these files get corrupted, and there is like 3 level of replication which is happening. You have LRS or GRS, whatever. As soon as the file will get corrupted, the correction will also get copied over to all the zones or all the replication partners. So all the replication partners will get corrupted. Now at that point, if you need a file back, how do you get it? Backup is your only chance to get that files back. If you didn't do backup, and if you were just relying on, okay, Azure is maintaining 3 copy of my data, and this example is valid not just in storage, in various other scenarios as well, that you didn't take backup and you were just hoping that because my data is getting replicated in 3 different regions, then I'm not going to be impacted. The problem is that the corruption also got replicated into those 3 different regions. So you have to make sure that you have backups. Monitoring Azure storage account. So Azure storage account can be monitored from Azure admin portal. When I will go into creating the Azure storage account, then I'll show you how to do that. Azure files, we already discussed. This is the SMB storage in cloud, the server message block. A file storage account is specialized storage account used to store, create premium file shares or standard file shares. This storage account kind support files but not blobs, tables or queues. File storage accounts offer unique performance dedicated characteristics of IOPS bursting. So it's a specialized created product if you want to use it as a file server to copy and put your data. It acts as a file server, provide ASMB 2.1 and 3.0 support, can be mapped as a map drive on a standard client. So you can map it on your computer as a map drive. A single file share can have up to 5 terabyte of data, and a single file can be up to 1 terabyte. Believe me, you can't have this kind of a data on a local file server in your organization unless you spend a lot of money to maintain and build that server. And here you don't even have to create a server, you can just create a file share and use it. And storage is really cheap. Storage account, like I said, it's a file share, so you need some kind of a password to access it. So that's what is called as storage account keys. It's like a password to your storage account, and there are 2 set of keys which are provided. So why it provide 2 set of keys is that wherever you configure both the keys, and let's say if the keys get compromised, then what you can do is that you can reset one key and then take that key. So when I say compromise, I mean it's like a password, the key. So let's say that you feel that the key has been highly distributed now, and even a lot of people who have left the organization still have access to that data because of they had access to the password, or you configured the drive on their computer. So what you can do is that you can go ahead and reset the key. Now as soon as you are going to reset the password, all the connections will get terminated because the password got changed. But to figure out that problem, what Microsoft has done is it provides you 2 keys. So what you do is that you go ahead and reset the password of one of the key, and your client machine where you have configured everything also is aware of your 2 keys. So as soon as you reset the first key, the client will get to know or will stop using the first key, or will try to use the first key and fail, and then it will use the second key and succeed. Now, what you can do is you can go to the clients and update the new key on them, the new first key, and now you can go and reset the second key. Now, when you reset the second key, again the second key will stop functioning on the cloud, but they will switch back to first key, which you have already updated. So now they can use the first key, and now you can go ahead and update the second key in the cloud as well, and then update the second key on the clients as well. I'll show you the keys and everything when you look into the Azure demo, the storage demo. Then we have got something which is called as Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. It is something with which you can look at the Azure storage. You can look at the Azure storage and its content from the admin panel in portal.microsoftonline.com or portal.azure.com, which is the Azure admin panel, or you can use Storage Explorer as well. I'll show you. Azure Store Simple. Azure Store Simple is a hardware device. Unlike the rest of the Azure, Microsoft has created an Azure Store Simple hardware device as well. In fact, it is available as an appliance too. So what you can do is that you can set up some kind of a virtualization in your office, and you don't have to buy the hardware device. You can get the Store Simple software and you can install it as an appliance on your virtualization. Now, what exactly is a Store Simple? It is Microsoft hybrid NAS offering. It can replicate your data to multiple offices. It can keep active data on-premise and passive data remote. Footprint is visible, and automate data management based on policies. Okay. Remember, I told you that every organization have got two set of data, the active data and the passive data. So active data, the passive data could be 50 terabyte, or the total data could be 50 terabyte, but the active data would hardly be 500 or 700 GB out of that 50 terabyte. So what you can do with Store Simple is that you can set up Store Simple as your on-premise file server or NAS server, and then you can put all this 50 terabyte data in it, and then you can go ahead and create retention policies. Remember, we created retention policies. We can define, if the business says 1 year old data should be considered passive, then you say 1 year old policy, or if it says that 7 days old data should be considered, or not 7 days is really low, but if they say 6 months old data is to be considered passive, then you set up a policy 6 months. What Azure is going to do, Azure Store Simple is going to do, based on the retention policy, it will start automatically deciding what is active data, what is passive data, what is active data, what is, based on the last modified date of the files, it will decide, okay, this hasn't been accessed for 1 year, this passive, this hasn't been accessed, passive, passive. And what's going to do, it is going to connect to your Azure storage in cloud. And it is going to put all the passive data in Azure storage in a cold tier or in archive tier. Now all your passive data is sitting here, all your active data is sitting here, so you really don't need to get a Store Simple with 50 terabyte of data. In fact, there is hardly any Store Simple with 50 terabyte of data. You can go ahead and upgrade the hard drives and make it 50 terabyte, but yeah, that's just a way of saying that you don't need that much storage here. What going to happen, you put all the data here, 50 terabyte, gradually you start putting here, and it will start putting the data here in the cloud. The passive set will be stored in cloud, the active set will be stored here with a copy here as well, as a backup scenario kind of. So now, but the best thing is that the passive set footprint is available. So if when your boss goes into his old X drive and tries to access the data, and he goes into his favorite shared folder, he will still see all the passive set data. It's just that it will not be available on the local device. If he goes ahead and double click on any of the data, it will instantaneously get downloaded from here and will be given to him. So in a few seconds, he'll get the file. He'll not even notice that something happened. But we have done a magic here. The Store Simple, based on the retention policy which you have decided or defined, it is putting all your passive data in a cold or archive tier storage in Azure, which is really cheap. The other benefit of Store Simple is that you can use it as a replication as well. So you can put a Store Simple device here, you can put a Store Simple device here, you can put a Store Simple device here, and you can use Azure File Sync from here. And what this is going to do, it is going to maintain the copy of data in these three offices. So if you change a file here on active or passive set, it will get updated here, it will get updated here, because technically it is getting updated here, and then from there it will get downloaded and updated here. So this is the benefit of Azure Store Simple. All right, so let's go ahead and create our storage account and see how it works out for us. Okay, so what I have done here is I have logged into my Azure portal, and I'll go here in storage account, and I will say I'll create a storage account here. And first of all, you have to choose your subscription. So that's your subscription. And then you have to create, choose your resource group under which you want to create the storage account, because ultimately the resource group is the primary level of segregation, which is deciding that for what business, for what reason, for which project you are creating this storage account. So I will select test resource group, and let's go ahead and put some name. So I say that I'm a novice and I want to create my storage account. Okay, so first of all, you can't have any capital letters. I don't know why really that's the case with it, but you can't have capital letters. And okay, so my storage account is taken. So this has to be really unique in the whole wide world. So we usually end up adding some numbers behind it, and we name it like essay or some number. Okay. All right. Then you choose the location, in which region you want it to be. Then you choose the performance, whether you want it to be a standard or a premium storage. So I'll choose standard. Now what is the type of storage which you need? Do you need storage account V2? I showed this to you, or you need storage, or you need blob storage. In most of our cases, we will go ahead and choose storage account V2 because it supports blob storage and file server storage and all those kind of things, and the latest data lake storage as well. V1 was the earlier version which was available, and if you were creating the storage account in Azure Classic deployment model, then you could have chosen V1 here as well. That would have been only your option, the only option for you. But here, in our case, we will choose V2. Now this is the replication. Which one do you want to use? Locally redundant, which is 3 copy in the same data center. Zone redundant, which is 3 copy in one data center, 3 copy in the other data center, but in the same zone. That is, if it's in Sydney, then Sydney only. Geo-redundant, that is 3 copies in one data center in Sydney and 3 copies in another data center in Melbourne. So geographically, high availability is maintained. Something happens in Sydney, you can access your data from Melbourne. Read-only geo-redundant storage. So this option is if you want to, what basically happens in this option, Melbourne and Sydney 2 copies are maintained, and then in another data center, another copy is copied over, but it is marked as read-only. So you can't make a change to that copy. So it's like a read-only data. So you, of course, don't choose that. I'll choose LRS, and then you have got what kind of a tier are you looking for? Hot and cold. So cold is when it is passive set of data and you don't want to access it a lot. Hot is, in most of the purposes, you will be making a hot option. Networking. So this storage account, do you want it to be accessible from all networks? So in your Azure subscription, whatever virtual networks are there, it will be accessible from all of them. Or you want it to be accessible from selected networks. So in most cases, you will say selected networks because you will be doing something a little more private. And then in your resource group, whatever networks are available, you go ahead and choose them. You can choose a private endpoint, in which case you can create an endpoint and then you can access it via that. Okay, so we will say all networks for now. Data protection. do you want to turn off soft delete for blobs? So soft delete enables you to recover blobs that were previously marked for deletion, including blobs that are basically it's kind of a recycle bin for file shares. For turn on versioning. So versioning, I don't know if you have noticed, but in a lot of Office versions, and if you are saving files in OneDrive, etc., you would see that you can, if you right click on a Microsoft Word file and you can go into its detail, and you will see that there is versions of files available. Versions mean that if you saved the file yesterday, then today you opened it and made some changes to it, then you saved it today, then and then like if you keep doing it for next 7 days, 10 days, or an year or so, if you go into versions, you will see that the file is maintained in various versions. And let's say that if it's a painting or it's a drawing which you are making, and you feel that, okay, last week it was looking good and now I have made a mess of it. So, how do you get to the last week copy? You have got two options. Either you can speak to your IT guy and try to ask him to recover the backup, or what you can do is that you can simply right click on the file and you can go to a previous version of the file. So that is what is versioning. So if you want to enable versioning, you can do this. Advanced, if you want to do a secure file transfer, so only data will be transferred over on the secure protocol, HTTPS or something. If you want to allow public access of the blob, once again, transport layer security, if you want the data to be secured and encrypted, large file shares, you can go to all these options here and you can read about them, and you can read about all these options. So these things, new things keeps coming, new changes keeps coming, and Microsoft keeps making it better. So it's best that you just read it here. So it provides support for up to 100 terabyte file share. Okay, data like Gen 2 if you want to enable that. So these are the options. Now, next is your tag. Remember, we told you tag. So, let's say you say person name, Mark, department, IT. These are just again tags which can help you subdivide the resources within a resource group. Now, review and create. Okay, the deployment is underway. We'll wait for it to get deployed. Alright, so it's completed. Now I'm going to say go to resource. So here is your storage account. Right now it's just an account, there is nothing inside it. This is the overview of it. You can see the containers which are available, file shares, tables and queues. These are the type of storage. Container is basically blob. And you have some monitoring data available here. I spoke to you about how to monitor the storage account, so I'm going to show that to you shortly. Then you can put some kind of access control on it, that who can access the storage and who cannot access the storage. Within your organization, you can create multiple access level assignment to define who people are supposed to be accessing the storage. Maybe only the guys in IT groups should be able to access it. The finance guys should not be able to access it. You can do all these things. Okay. Storage Explorer preview. So Storage Explorer is a software I told you. I have installed it on my computer. I will show it to you. But Storage Explorer is a way through which you can look into the data inside your storage account. But they are giving access to Storage Explorer directly from here as well, so that you don't have to do it from your software, or you don't have to install the software. So yeah, this is how this looks like. There is no data as such right now, so you're not seeing anything, but I'll show you and we'll create data here as well. Access keys. Access keys, remember I was telling you there are two set of keys which are available. So this is kind of username, and these are kind of the passwords, and these are the connection point. If you want to connect it from outside, then you need to use these connection point, and these are the password. So you can reset the keys doing like this. and it regenerated the key. So now if you would have provided the key 2 as well, the client application would start using the key 2, and now you can go and update the key 1 there, and then you can come here and change the key 2 as well, and then go back, update the key 2. This way you get an option that the services will not go down when you are resetting the password from here. Geo replication, we chose LRS, so that's showing here, and I think we should have an option to change it. It's showing the location. Various configuration options, the same options which I was showing you before, you can disable, enable them from here, and all those options are available. Encryption, if you want to encrypt your data, so Microsoft by default encrypts your data, but as of now the key to this encryption is managed by Microsoft. If you don't trust Microsoft and you want to encrypt your own data, then you have got options to customer managed keys as well, and you have to set up a key vault and do those kind of things, which is not included as of now. We are not going to discuss it, but this is the optional security which is available to you. Shared access signature is also the same password thing which we spoke about. The virtual networks from where it is accessible, so we have set it to all networks. Private endpoint connections, if we would have said that only certain endpoints can access it, then we can add it from here. Security options which are available. Let's go to containers. So this is one way you can access your data. This is blob, and you can go ahead and create a container here if you want to, and then you can set up some kind of securities here, the access levels, etc. This is file shares. I told you, Azure file shares. So a storage account can have everything: blob, file service, tables, and queues. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a file share. Accounting. And let's give it a quota of, say, whatever size, 100 GB. Okay, I can't have capital letter. Why do I forget? Okay, so you created a share. You have this option to connect to it. And what we are going to do is that we are just going to, so this is showing you how you can set this up as a map drive on your computer. So you just created this, and now you want to give access to somebody in your organization, like to this drive at this moment. This is an old drive which I created on this PC just for testing. So I'm going to, what we are going to do is that we just copied it from there, and we are going to put it here in Windows PowerShell. We need to open it, and they tell you here how to do it. And then you go ahead and say, you paste it here. I've just copied it from here, I'm pasting it, and now it's ready. So I'll say next. It's in credential added successfully, and done. See, the accounting share is available. Now I'll go ahead and create a folder. Okay, so this folder got created. The slowness is was probably because of this share which I need to remove, and I'll probably need to use PowerShell to remove this from here because this is causing a sluggish slowness. But anyways, we will go back to this, our practical, and we'll go to counting. And see, the folder which I created is here now. So as simple as that, you don't have to maintain a file server, you don't have to do anything else. You can just go ahead and create your shares here as your files, as simple as that. Okay, so that's that. This is the storage account. And so those are files, and then you have tables and queues. You can look into them. And then I was talking to you about monitoring. So what you can do is that you can look at whatever is happening with your storage here, and you can look into the performance, various numbers. Once again, you need to study a bit how to understand all these graphs and everything, and it'll give you full understanding of what's going on. And there are some very good, you can create alerts. So if there is something happening to your storage, or if it is highly utilized, or it is facing some kind of a performance deterioration, you can create some kind of an alert, and it will let you know if there is a problem with the storage. And these workbooks are available to show you various kind of reports for your storage. So all this is available. Once again, we don't have much in this storage account, so all this data is looking empty, but this is what the monitoring is about. And yeah, that's it. So that's how you maintain your storage and manage your storage, and that's how you create your storage account. One thing which I wanted to show you was Storage Explorer. So I installed it, Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. What you can do is that you can go to your computer and say download Storage Explorer, and you will reach to this page, and it's a free tool you can download from here, and then you can install it on your computer. The first time when you will log in, it will ask you to connect to your Azure account. I already did it, so I'm already logged in here. And then it's going to show me all the storage accounts which I have on my computer. And I can go into, so this is the storage account which I created. And I can go here and see, this is the accounting folder which I created. So everything is available from here, and our accounting is Cheshire. So you can upload and download files, and you can do a lot of things from here, which you would want to do. There are a lot of features available in it. So this is basically your Azure Explorer, and Azure Storage Explorer is used to look into your storage, and you have access to everything, the blobs, the file shares, the queues, the tables, and whatever storage account are available in your subscription. All of them are visible here, so you can go ahead and play around with them. All right. Okay, so I told you how to create a storage account. I showed you the storage account keys, which are the passwords. I showed you why we have two set of keys. I showed you storage in admin portal. I showed you Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. That's amazing. Alright, so this is the end of this module. Here is what we covered in this module. Differentiating factor for storage in Azure. Types of storage in Azure. We defined the storage account. What kind of storage accounts are there. We told you about the resilience of the storage account, like the local redundancy or the zone redundancy, etc. I showed you Storage Explorer, and I showed you how to view the storage from the admin panel. Explained to you Azure Premium Storage. I told you how the pricing of storage works for standard storage, because you only pay for what you use and not otherwise. And then I told you how to do monitoring of the storage from the admin panel, and then we looked into Azure Files, how that is a replacement of Azure File Server, and I told you about Azure Store Simple, which is a hardware device to differentiate between the active and passive set of data, and can work with like an on-premise storage for you. And then I gave you a demo of the Azure storage account, how to create it. All right. So read more about the Azure storage account options. There was a lot of options there while we were creating the storage account, and they have different meanings and different utilization. It's good for you if you learn about it. Create your first storage account, understand various types of storage like files, cube, blobs, etc. View your storage account with Storage Explorer, and set up an Azure file share and set up a map drive from your PC to access it. Okay? So that's it for this module, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next module soon.